Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Read on.
I would like to point out that President Zugak is not here this evening. I am doing it for him.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I was just mentioning that President Zugak was not able to make it tonight, and I am filling in for him as board clerk. Special present agenda review. Any items that need review? Okay, if there's nothing there, we'll move on to special presentations. Superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening, board, and good evening, audience members. I wanted to go through and highlight some of the things that have been taking place since the beginning of school, as I do before every meeting. So just want to really acknowledge our student leaders from our middle schools who helped welcome our new students that were coming in. So these are Edna Hill, Where Everybody Belongs, West students, giving tours and welcoming people, and also taking place at Bristow as well. So great opportunity to welcome kids back on campus. Here is taking place at Guerin, so Mrs. Warner leading families on tours out there as well. So it's really a lot of people working hard to get us off to a great start. And then our first day of school was back on July 28th, and just some fun pictures. It's been so nice to have students back on campus. That's been a real highlight. You can see here at Brentwood Elementary, and then at Cray as well. Just lots of smiles, some Loma Vista, some love from the Owl at Mary Casey Black. So just really, really a great start. Special treat out there as Dr. Cray, the namesake of Cray Elementary, was out to greet students that first day. That's always a treat for them, and a thing that he does each and every year, and about the 20 years that it's been open. So it's a really nice thing. Also want to thank our local police officers for being out and working so hard to keep our schools safe and our streets safe during the beginning of school. They also want to acknowledge our counseling staff. As you know, the board approved some extra counseling time over the next couple of years with some one-time money, and there's Mr. Turner and Mrs. Sarah was out working with students and supporting them as they're returning back to school. And of course, you know, as we come back to school, there's lots of procedures and expectations to start off with to get this off to a good start. So great things there. And then we're getting into learning. So here's a great lesson out at Bristow Middle School where students are building aluminum boats to hold the most pennies. So using some of their science discoveries curriculum out there. I want to say a special thank you to the Brentwood Neighborhood Church and Rocky Burris who donated school supplies and backpacks to Brentwood Elementary, seen out there in front of the sign. So thank you to them for their partnership. Had the opportunity to go out and see Mrs. Keneally's class out of Adams Middle School, their drama class learning about tableaus, and that was a great thing and something that you can't do when students aren't in person. So it's so nice to have them there. Mrs. Keneally doing a great job. Out at Ron Nunn, Mrs. Volta and Ms. Grace Sievers had a little Olympics for their students. It's a fun Friday event for Ron Nunn Elementary School. So that was fun to watch that take place. Want to acknowledge Carly, our therapy dog out at Guerin, who's helping students with their learning here and lending a paw there for some reading success. Want to say a couple of special congratulations to two of the really talented staff members. So Carolyn Dodds, who's a Guerin Elementary School teacher, just published her first book, and so this one special congratulations to her. And then Mrs. Person, a teacher out at Edna Hill, did the artwork for a new book we came out on August 3rd. So congratulations for them both. We have staff that are super talented. Lots of opportunities to do some building out in STEAM class. So here's a Maker Monday on Mrs. Truesdale's class out at Edna Hill. And then some students enjoying some outdoor reading time at Brentwood Elementary School out in Mr. Paganini's class out there. Also want to say a special thank you to a group of volunteers in a group called Seems to Help, led by Sandy Grossman Morris. This group created 1,000 fidget sensory pads. These are so many other pads that our students use to just to kind of calm down and help pay attention to what's going on. And so just a labor of love from those volunteers, and really appreciate all the work that they put in. These are some math challenges that are taking place with some building, using hundreds of pens and ones blocks out there, and this is a big class that run them. And then I want to thank everybody who was involved in the hiring fair. So that took place on August 7th on a Saturday. We saw over 120 people, and are really looking to get some great new candidates into our school district family. So that was great to see. And then this year we've been doing back to school night virtually. And so this is at Loma Vista. Seeing teachers work really hard out there to try to connect with their families and set their students up for success. So thank you, Ms. Gordon, Ms. Sanders, and Ms. Foreman, and the rest of the teachers out there at all of our sites for doing that. This was a really nice thing that happened on last week. Rose walked out, and her mom had come back from deployment early, and surprised her at school. So really special moment for there. Thanks to her mom for her service. And then I've been learning this new word, which is called Reckon, which I didn't know before, but it's a math tool to help students build numbers and understand number sense. And so kids are loving them out there. I was seeing this at Marsh Creek, and I saw it here at K-State Lab today. And then our virtual school has launched, and we have over 170 students in it. And so this is their principal, Mrs. Hay, who's held sort of a fun lunch art day for students to come participate in with her. And so that is my report today.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Okay, next up we have public comment. This time the public is permitted to address the school board on items that are on the consent calendar, requests for future agenda items, or items that are not on the agenda.
I move that we open public comment.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. First up, we have Alexandra Medina. Before you start, I would like to remind everybody that remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents us from discussing items that are not on our meeting agenda. Public comments can be made at this time or during the appropriate agenda item. We do take them very seriously, and if appropriate, staff will follow up.
If I knew I had 3 minutes, I would add another minute, but it's fine. Good evening, everyone. I'm an advocate for your children, every single one of them. Parents, I want you to know you have the power here. You are your child's best advocate. We've been fed a line from the beginning of this pandemic that never sat right with me, that the children are resilient. I actually don't think they're that resilient. Kids don't have the psychological capacity to properly process what's going on. They're unable to do their own research. They don't know that their chance of dying with COVID is 0.0092% if they even contract the virus. They don't know that asymptomatic transmission has actually not been proven, and that's the whole reason we're all in masks, right? They don't even know their teachers. Sure, they know their names and they see them, but they don't know them. All these kids see is an authoritative figure without a face. And they're being conditioned to listen to them without question. What is this teaching our kids? Does anyone else find that a bit concerning?
Yeah.
They aren't allowed to hug their teacher. They're not allowed to see their teacher's expression. They're not allowed to see the human side of their teacher. And these kids need human connection to feel safe and comfortable in a classroom. How can teachers tell if the kid's upset or struggling? What about the kids that never raise their hands, that are super shy, or the ESL kids, or the kids that have a speech impediment? So many kids are getting left behind. I know the board is worried about cases. It's a bad look. Nobody wants to get sick. And cases are gonna go up with or without a mask. This is what happens when you keep your kids in a bubble for 18 months and then put them back in a classroom. Let's talk about boosting our immune system, not suppressing it. We have to learn how to just be healthy and keep fighting life. You know, when you put your kid in preschool the first time, they all were always sick. It's just like all over again.
Yep.
Now parents, this is for you. If you don't agree with masking your children and they maintain this order, I ask you, look inside of you and believe in yourself. Know that God gave you these children to raise them in a time like this. This is not our childhood. This is not the same world we grew up in. I want you to know that you can homeschool your children if you want to be. It may be scary, but oftentimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Have faith in yourself and know that you can pull your kids from the system. You are capable, you are strong, you are smart, you are enough. Take your power back, be bold, and be free.
We have Francesca Medina.
Are you ready, sis? What is it?
Good job, Frankie.
Good girl.
Ready? Okay.
Hi, I'm Francesca Medina and I am 8 years old. I think kids should be able to breathe fresh air when they want to. It is not fair to make anyone do something they don't want to do. Wearing a mask is hot and hard to breathe, plus hard to see people's faces in a mask. If you want to wear a face covering, you can. But I prefer not to.
Okay, next up we have Rob Bledsoe, and I would like to remind everyone, please keep your mask on while speaking as well. Thank you.
Absolutely not. No. Superintendent, keep your mask on while you breathe. Yeah.
Yes, and you expect us to speak for 3 minutes?
Can't hear
like that.
On.
Off.
Good evening, my name is Rob Bledsoe and I'm the father of a first grader at Pioneer. I'm going to stop you for just a second and tell you, we need you to keep your mask on when you're speaking.
You just want
It's okay to drink water,
No.
but it's not okay for him to speak.
Put it on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the health regulations say that if you take.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I have to scroll.
You guys are being
I'm
ridiculous.
gonna vote you out. No. Say goodbye to your job.
Here, you need a snack?
Snack out.
We're going to ask everybody to treat everybody here with respect and listen to what they're saying. And we're also going to ask you to keep your mask on while you're speaking.
I'd like to reset my clock.
Yeah, of course we will.
I'm not here to change your mind about COVID. I'm not here to throw out statistics or talk about the science behind asking our children, because there is none. Tonight I stand before you and ask you to think about your role as a leader in this community. I'm talking to you, the board, and you. What made you decide to run for this board? What was your purpose for doing so? Who told you that you'd be good at it? Or did you decide that you were that on your own? What did you lay in bed at night and think about you wanted to change when you decided to run? What was going to be your leadership style? Who were you influenced by? Was it Jim Collins and Good and Great? Was it Tony Robbins' seminar? Or was it a TED Talk by Simon Sinek? The reason I ask is I look at this whole problem as a lack of leadership. From the governor's office to this school board is a lack of strong leadership. I see a lack of equal representation and lack of respect for all students. Leadership is not having parents beg you to put this on the agenda. You should have done that yourselves. Leadership is not calling us on the phone and telling us that you hear us, but your hands are tied.
Yep.
And leadership certainly is not a comment by, leadership is certainly not, media, is talking in front of the media by the superintendent and telling parents they're welcome to homeschool their kids. That comment by Superintendent Eaton was hopefully off the cuff, and you regret how that came across. Either way, the district should hire a proper PIO, and I'd love to hear your comments to clarify that. Leadership is finding a way through it for everyone. A book you should read is The Hanoi Hilton, Lessons from the Hanoi Hilton by Peter Fretwell. That will tell you about leadership. If you haven't read it, you should. This book goes into detail about POWs from all service branches being held in concentration camps and how they banded together to get through this. I hope that you could see my comparisons of how people with different backgrounds and beliefs come together with strong leadership and thrive through it on the other side. Today, I demand you dig deep. Today, I demand that you prove if you are a true leader or if you're just a poser up there. Today, I demand that you start the discussion of representing all of your students. You are elected leaders of this community. You are not stuck behind enemy lines in a POW camp. You have the ability to make decisions so that all children, whether masked or not, can thrive now and in their futures. You have the ability to lead these children with confidence. You have thousands of parents here that want a choice, masking their children or not. A choice. A choice. Freedom. We all did the flag salute. The flag salute is freedom that we're asking for. We are demanding it. We are afforded that. And believe me, those thousands of votes will go to someone else who is ready to lead if you are not. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dallas Nelson.
I wasn't planning on speaking. I didn't prepare any remarks, but I would like to, first of all, thank all the parents here that came to voice their opinions. I would like to thank the two members of the board that stayed at the table while the rest were in recess. I would like to spend the rest of my time addressing the board and correct the statement that was just made. The board is not leaders here. The board is elected servants of the people. Your job is to worry about the education of our children. You guys are assuming responsibility that does not belong to you. The parents should have the choice of whether their kids wear a mask or not. That should not be a decision the rest of the board. This should be optional. If kids want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If they don't, they don't. I've got 6 kids, all 6 of them got COVID. You wouldn't even know it. No symptoms, nothing. This is a 99% survival rate, right? And we're locking these kids down with these masks for no reason. It's uncalled for. You guys are taking responsibility that I believe does not belong to you. This is the parents' choice.
Amen.
Next up, Sean Rakow.
He just went to take our daughter to the bathroom.
I'll put a couple behind. Ashley Chandler.
Good evening, board members. I am Ashley Chandler and a parent of a child at Pioneer. As a parent, I believe masking our children should be a choice. According to University of Toronto psychologists, it is not until kids are about 14 years old that they reach adult skills and recognize these faces. By putting on masks, we take away information that makes it especially difficult for our children to recognize others, read emotional signs, which is completely unsettling. These issues may be especially true for children with autism spectrum disorder, like my stepson, who tend to have particular difficulties in reading nonverbal cues. We have forgotten about them. Do they not matter? The World Health Organization stated in their report on June 5th of 2022, at present, there is no direct evidence from studies on COVID-19 and in healthy people in the community on the effectiveness of universal masking of healthy people in the community to prevent infection with respiratory viruses, including COVID-19.
Right.
At the same study, research shows that a moist mask is a breeding ground for antibiotic-resistant bacteria, fungus, and mucosal that undermines mucosal immunity. This means that we are putting our children at risk by wearing a mask because we are taking their immunity away, okay? You're making them sick. You are making them sick. You. Face masks prevent the mirroring of facial expressions, a process that facilitates empathetic connections and trust between pupils and teachers. Several studies show that long-term exposure to psychosocial stress levels, neuroepigenetic scars that are difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild. Help me understand how you get to pick and choose your science. Help me understand why these children are at the forefront of your mind. Help me understand why your political views keep you from being a leader. I'm asking you to be leaders for the children, not the Brentwood Teachers Association, not the California Teachers Association. You are elected for these children, not them. And pay attention to these ladies shaking their head in the front. They're teaching your children.
Thank you.
And the people who voted you in, any representative, I urge you to resign. If it's too hard for you, if you can't make a decision for children, resign. Somebody will take your seat who loves kids and wants them to be happy. Furthermore, I wanted to state on record that Dr. Eaton should be held accountable for his remarks made on the news weeks ago. End quote. If you don't like it, you can do independent study or homeschool. Let me make it crystal clear. Public education is a right, Dr. Eaton, a right.
Yeah.
Not afforded just by you, but by everyone. It is a right. You should be ashamed. It is inappropriate, and as a parent, I demand a public apology. It was defamatory. I also urge all these parents to vote you out. Pay attention when you vote. I urge you tonight to represent the children of this community. I urge you tonight to vote as a leader of our community and deliver mass choice to these children.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Right now. If I'm getting anybody's name wrong, please feel free to correct me when you get to the podium. I'd like to know.
My name is Christina, and I am a mom of 3 beautiful little girls, 2 of which attend Pioneer Elementary. My daughter Presley is in 2nd grade, and my daughter Dallas is in 1st grade. I have served many different roles on our school board over the last 3 years, and am starting out this year as president of the Pioneer Parents Club. Before I begin with the main reason why we are all here, I did want to take a second to recognize some of those and thank and show appreciation for some of the everyday heroes without capes that are often overlooked. District staff, principals, assistant principals, admin, lunch ladies, and mostly teachers, like the one that's sitting right over there. She's here supporting us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for teaching my babies, for sticking it out through thick and thin this last year. I don't know where we would be without teachers like you, so thank you. We do not co-parent with the government. No one on this planet cares more about the health and well-being of my child than me. There is no question on if there is or isn't a virus. There is a virus. There is no doubt about that. I speak from experience. My husband brought it home from work in December and was down for a week. I lost my taste and smell for about a day and a half and fortunately quickly bounced back so I could care for our 3 daughters. So yes, there is in fact a virus I can attest to. The question we are trying to answer here is the virus enough of a threat to our children and school staff to force them to remain masked while indoors? Science, facts, and studies say no. My 1st grader has no clue what it's like to be on an elementary school campus without faces being hidden by masks. Today she forgot her mask in the car, and I didn't realize it until it was too late in the day. When I picked her up, she told me she had to wear the school-provided paper ones. She told me that the corners were bugging her face, but she didn't want to ask her teacher for help in fixing it because she didn't want to interrupt her while she was teaching. So there she sat, uncomfortable and distracted by an unnecessary piece of cloth. She slumped her head down and said, "Mommy, I really wish we could just not wear masks at school. They really bother me." At that moment, I knew my voice had to be heard. Not being forced to wear a mask will have so many benefits to these kids. Mostly it will improve the interaction between teachers and students, making sure they have the clearest possible way to communicate with each other through facial expressions, emotions, and so many more ways. So much has been ripped from these kids' lives since March 2020. I'm sure there are plenty of parents willing and ready to sign any forms to opt their kids out of wearing a mask on campus. Please, I beg of you to strongly encourage strongly encourage students to comply with the CDC guidance, including use of masks. However, please don't put schools and staff in the compromising position of taking enforcement actions. District will make the decisions they believe are best for the schools, but we as the parents are the authority and ultimate decision makers over our children's health and well-being. Thank you.
Well.
Good evening, board members. I think you all know my position on the mask mandate since I'm the one that got this on the agenda tonight. But in case you don't, I want to be clear, I'm against a mandate of any kind. I could go into great detail about the science or lack of behind these mandates and how there isn't a single study which proves that masks prevent COVID transmission. Not a single one. In fact, I have studies with me from the New England Journal of Medicine that actually show the opposite. I could talk about how microscopic the COVID virus is and absolutely no cloth mask is going to stop it. I could point out how our children are more likely to spread influenza, RSV, and the common cold than they are to spread COVID. Why do we not mandate masks during every cold and flu season? Because our bodies are amazing, durable things. I can point out that the likelihood of our children spreading COVID to their classmates is less than 1 in a million. Children do not have the ACE2 receptor proteins that are needed to transmit this virus. I can point out how dangerous it is for children to wear face coverings all day long, as Ashley pointed out. Trapping bacteria and carbon dioxide up against their breathing holes and forcing it into their lungs. I even read a story of a girl in Europe who died of carbon dioxide poisoning from wearing a mask all day. I myself have had to pick Emma up a few times from school because she gets headaches and anxiety from wearing a mask all day. She's a straight A student who dreads missing school because she doesn't like to get behind. This is no longer a pandemic, this is an endemic. COVID is not going away. We have to learn to live with it. We have to accept the fact that this virus is a part of our lives now, and we have to show our children that we are not going to allow it to control our lives, which brings me back to masks. I do understand the position you believe you are in, but with all due respect, your hands are far from tied. The first thing I'd like to point out is that you are a board of education. Your sole mission is to focus on the education of our children, and it says so right on your website. I understand that you are afraid of legal ramifications. First, not a single parent here believes that masks should be banned, nor should they be mandated. We believe that this is the choice of the parents and only the parents.
Yes.
What a child does or does not put on their face is not your decision, it's not Gavin Newsom's, and it's not the CDC's.
Yep.
This mask is considered an EAU product, experimental use authorization by the FDA. It says so on their website. Because this is experimental, under federal law, this cannot be mandated without the express consent of the wearer. By forcing children to wear these while at school, you are actually breaking the law and violating their rights.
Yep.
Along with that, I recently listened to State Assemblyman Kevin Kiley address the Tustin County Board of Education. He's the co-chair of the Education Committee in California. In order to comply with the state's mandates, he suggested printing out the mandate from the State of California website and hanging it up next to your other policies and procedures. I printed these out for you and laminated them.
Sorry, I don't really have anything planned to say other than I don't agree with my kids wearing masks, and my kids don't agree with wearing masks. I feel like it's kind of ridiculous watching all of you guys sit up here. You're wearing like a gangbanger mask. You're wearing a Nevada State mask. You guys are all wearing mismatched masks. And I just think all logic has basically gone out the window. And we don't have any rational thought anymore when it comes to protecting our kids. All you guys are trying to do is CYA. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Carolina Villaseca.
So actually, my comments have nothing to do with masks. Actually, it has to do with the way the meetings are held. There would be more people, who wanted to express their opinions tonight, but they did not physically want to come to the meeting. And because there is no option on Zoom to raise your hand and make a comment, they are not able to do so. I would strongly urge the school board to consider how city council does their meetings, which is that you can raise your hand on Zoom and you get your minutes. Because that will be allowing more participation from parents that would prefer not to physically come here and give commentary. Thank you.
John Scatina.
Good evening. My name is John Scatina. I am a father of two children at Brentwood Elementary School, kindergarten and third grade. And my children have been going to daycare through the whole pandemic without any instances. They've had to be tested a few times, but they have not had COVID. So it is possible to be in all kinds of areas without doing that. I just want to share my background real quickly. I worked in K through 12 schools for 4 years in 25 different school districts. So I'm very familiar with board meetings. My job was to attend board meetings as the food service representative. So I'm very familiar with these settings, and I've heard all kinds of different approaches. The last 12 years I've worked in senior living, and I am very familiar with this COVID protocol. Seniors were hit first in this state. One of my clients that I support, they had the first death in California for COVID, and I'm very familiar with the ways to maneuver around this. I do want to say that I'm very worried that the masks will lead to testing in schools, and that is not a very good answer because testings are a false sense of security. These rapid tests are only about 58% effective when it comes to identifying people with COVID, and that is a false sense of security. So other people came up here and talked about liability for the school district. If you were to do a rapid testing or give that false sense of security that, hey, everybody's got a mask on, everybody's getting tested, there is no COVID, at some point you're providing a false sense of security that there is no COVID, and that's not true. Our students are able to be resilient. And then also, my dad taught me a long time ago that, son, you got to bring solutions to the table, not just complain about things. And so I thought about that. And tonight I bring two solutions that are sustainable for you. The first is you can do temperature checks. There's kiosks that the senior living communities use. They're touchless. You walk by them. It takes about 3 seconds to identify that person does not have a fever. And that means that you would not have to wear a mask because you've just identified that student does not have a fever, which is a very prime symptom of having COVID. The other thing is there's air scrubbers and there's ionization technology you can put into HVAC units, which would be good after COVID because they kill 99.8% of pathogens in the air, which means that your classrooms and your public spaces would be completely clean and you wouldn't have to wear a mask anymore. So thank you.
Logan Guzman.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Logan Hitchman. I am a third grader in Brentwood Elementary. I'm a veteran. I'm a police officer in this state. Not about me. not about me. I appreciate it. That's not about me. I've also been a volunteer every year in my child's class, right? I have a flexible, awesome police schedule, so I get to put my time back into the class, and that's been taken away from me tonight, right? I can't do that for my daughter. I can't be there in the classroom with her. It's just 14 days, guys. It's just a mask. It's just 6 more months. It's just 1 shot. It's just 2 shots. It's just a booster. You can go outside. You just can't come to this establishment. You can just homeschool. It's just what Fauci says. It's just a government order. It's just a district letter. I was a veteran that followed as best as I was able to the Constitution of the United States. I'm a police officer. There's other police officers in Brentwood. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's other police officers in Brentwood. We are bound by the Constitution. I don't remember anywhere in the Constitution of an amendment of it's just. And that is what we have been facing for the last 2 years, basically, is that it's just this. Just get over this one little thing. One more thing. The burden of leadership for a school board, I don't know your job. I don't. But I imagine that you've never had a time like this. You've never had to stand up and be that courageous individual sitting at those tables with the name plaques, with all of us looking at you. I understand. It's intense. But this is the time to shine. This is the time to prove that you are a leader. This is the time to show that you have the courage to just ask questions. That's all I'm asking. That's all my friends that we talk. We just want you to ask questions objectively, and not that it's just a government order, and that it's just a mayor's letter, and that it's just coming from the district, and that it's just. At some point, somewhere in that chain of command, there needs to be a courageous individual that stands up and says, when was the last time we actually looked at this objectively with just the people in this room? When was the last time that we listened to the individuals sitting in this room on both sides, on 3 sides? The sides doesn't matter. Somebody talked about the science earlier, right? That is what's important. Look at these things objectively. We are teaching children, and we can't demonstrate objective reasonableness at the table. That's not okay with me, and I know it's not okay with the people here. So my only question is, do you have the courage to look at things and ask questions? That's it.
Next up, we have Jackie Larson, and I will remind everyone, please make sure you're wearing a mask.
Your gator doesn't qualify as a mask.
And is it like?
I just have 2, but sorry, I didn't have copies for all of you, so you might have to share with the partner. All right, my name is Jackie Larson. I am a mother of 5, and I have pulled all 4 of my school-aged children from this district due to your masking policy. Even though my kids are no longer in this district, I'm here as a community member who is passionate about this issue. I'd like to start off by reading a few names to you. Orange County Board of Education, Newhall, El Dorado, Capistrano, Ripon, Roseville, Rockland. These are all a few districts that have stood up against the state and support mask choice in their school districts despite the mandate.
That's under that list.
There's a lot. That was just a few. I am here tonight to see if Brentwood will be added to this growing list of districts. You may, you have made it abundantly clear that you are doing what you're doing because you are under a state mandate, but I'd like to remind you that this does not mean your hands are tied. You have a choice, and you still have a responsibility as an elected body to use that voice to represent your constituents. We are all here tonight. Here are some things that you can do. We ask the board that you read what I put in front of you. It's called the Healthy Children's Resolution. This resolution points out that there's a lack of science supporting mandatory masking for all young students in classrooms all day long. By supporting the following and forwarding this to the state, you cannot get into trouble.
You cannot lose your funding, you cannot be fined, and nothing will happen to your insurance. What it can do though is show your students that you support their right to choose and support a parent's right to choose what is best for their children and for their family. What it can also do is tell the state that you are done with them abusing their authority to implement this mask mandate. School boards should be given their power back so that they can do what is best for their districts and not be governed by a one-size-fits-all mandate. To quote the Ripon Unified's letter to the state, they said, if the expectation is that local law enforcement and public health are not obligated to enforce mask policies throughout their jurisdictions, then why is it equitable and fair that school districts bear this burden for the societal responsibility? Masking and mask enforcement should not be the focus of our schools right now. Educating our students should be. Thankfully, the kids at large have been spared from the ill effects of COVID. This should be celebrated, but instead we are implementing and following mandates that do not support that science. We need to stop using our masked children as shields between adults and the virus. So I stand here today along with the community of parents here with me to ask that you consider the needs of these young kids, your students, first and foremost before you think about your possible liabilities.
Corrine Fernandez.
I haven't started speaking. Can you rewind it, please? Thank you. This box of masks has a warning label. Number 4 states, these masks do not eliminate the risk of contracting any disease or infection, nor reduce the risk of illness or death. Also states, not been FDA approved. NIH Director Francis Collins has openly admitted face masks for children are based on rare annotates, not data. We are told to trust the science, yet you don't listen to the science. The board of directors here would rather listen to the governor and health officials that don't have our children's best interests at heart. I ask you where the data shows that masks will eliminate the spread. I want evidence, not word of mouth. I can and will provide you the studies from an actual virologist. I'm sure you have all seen the video from virologist Dr. Dan Stock from Indiana. I can provide you all the scientific studies and research he has done. All you need to do is ask, and I'll email it. American Medical Association Pediatrics found wearing mask covering nose to mouth led to an increase of carbon dioxide levels, both inhaled and exhaled while wearing a mask. But yet you have PE teachers that are not doctors forcing children to wear masks indoors doing pacers. One child passed out from it. Parents have complained. We're told to get doctor's notes and hung up on them. How can you stand to allow this abuse to happen to our kids? Unacceptable. When will it end? When one of our kids dies? Professor John P.A. Lanidinas from Stanford University states, the infection fatality rate is 0.05 in ages 70 and under. It compares quite well to the IFR of most influenza, but yet we never mask our kids for influenza. CDC 2021 mask study reported maskings impede breathing and can trigger other health problems. Professor Yvonne states that once the mask is wet, it no longer works, but yet you expect our children to wear a mask all day long at school. I have a question for you. I want to know where your risk assessment is to have our children wearing masks while running during PE that pass out. I want to know the risk assessment during class for them to wear a mask all day that gets wet, that doesn't even work once it's wet. Where's your priorities? When do our kids matter? It's come to the point that we either have to be forced to remove you or you show that you care for our kids. Thank you.
Next, we have Christine
Take a
Reed.
minute and maybe answer that.
Yeah, are you gonna answer questions?
You guys can answer some of these important questions.
I'm sorry, public comment is for public comment. It's a one-way discussion. Thank you.
Standard answer.
Members of the board, Dr. Dana Eaton, and BUSD staff, I would like to thank each and every one of you for the tremendous care and the deliberation you have exercised in your planning for a safe return in the midst of this pandemic. My name is Kirsten Rigsby, and I am speaking with you this evening as a parent of 2 young children in the district. I urge you to continue mandating masks, at least indoors, and to enforce this policy that has been set forth. We have multiple family members with compromised immune systems, and I have to admit that I was relieved starting this school year because I knew that masks would be required by both students and teachers while indoors. Mask wearing has been proven to reduce outbreaks of COVID-19, and while the BUSD has had some positive cases at our local schools, I'm confident that these numbers would have been much larger had masking not been in place. I urge you to remember that we're still in the midst of a public health crisis, and we need to look to those public health officials for guidance. UC Davis Health states masking is the second most important form of protection after vaccination. This is the most important when children are not able to social distance from others, such as indoors. As we look at the data, we notice that the Delta variant affects young children at a higher level than earlier strains of the virus. Multi-system inflammatory syndrome can be quite severe, even weeks to months after the infection, and there is still no data on the much longer-term effects of COVID infections during childhood. We all saw the detrimental effects that distance learning had on large populations of children as well as their families. From learning loss and absenteeism to underreporting cases of child abuse and a dramatic increase in mental health issues among our students. Children need to be with their peers and they need to be in the classroom. However, I fear that without vaccines available to our young students and without masking enforcement in place.
First Amendment, guys, let her be. Let her be.
Let her speak.
Everybody let everybody speak, please.
We would face large outbreaks on local campuses, leading to a lack of staffing required to keep our schools open. Furthermore, these outbreaks would have a detrimental effect on those families who have been the most impacted by the pandemic. Low-income families, as well as BIPOC communities. Families who are already struggling to make ends meet would face making the difficult decisions.
Antonio Xavier.
Yeah.
Most of the children in this district are too young to be vaccinated at this time. Until that changes, I support the masking policy as part of a layered approach. I came here tonight expecting to be in the minority. I know many of you disagree. I respect your right to disagree. However, one thing I hope we will agree on is that the COVID situation has changed. We now find ourselves in the beginning of the Delta variant wave. We need to reevaluate what we know and respond accordingly. We are repeating history 1 year later. We don't know enough about Delta to say anything with certainty regarding the true risk to children. But we still have to act early because that is the nature of an epidemic. What we do know so far is that the Delta variant is harming children. Numerous reports are available showing pediatric hospitals are filling up with severe cases in the states with early outbreaks. This did not happen last year.
Yeah.
When it comes to the health and safety of our children, I encourage this board to err on the side of caution. Follow the advice of the consensus of experts, such as the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the California Department of Health, and even our own Contra Costa Health Services. Keep masking as part of a layered approach until we have more information. I also want to say, death is not the only thing we should be concerned with. alive or dead, is not and should never be the standard of care when it comes to children. We expect schools to be responsible for the safety and well-being of our children. With the Delta variant, that means we want to avoid hospitalizations as well as potential long-term health issues. When we have information showing the situation has changed, then this mask policy should be revisited at that time. Thank you.
Nicole Nelson.
My thoughts are scattered, but I would urge you to allow us parents to have the choice to mask our children. I have 6 kids. My husband spoke earlier. I have a daughter with an autoimmune issue. I would like to keep her masked when I feel like I need to keep her masked. I have a son that has speech delays. The mask has been very.
Okay, you got it. You got it. You got it.
It's been very detrimental to him and all the work that has been put in to him and being able to get up to the same speed that he should be with his peers. Your IEP, speech therapy, resolution with the distance learning absolutely sucked. I cannot be in the classroom to see how he's doing. And I usually volunteer in kindergarten. With all of my kids I have, the mask has done him a lot of harm. He needs to see an entire face. I told my 2 girls, 3 of my 6 kids are in this district. 2 of them are in high school now, and 1 has not yet gotten old enough to be in here. I told 2 of my 3, I'm homeschooling them. The only reason I have not pulled my kindergartners because I'm working on finding another way to get him his speech. He cannot learn without seeing an entire face. He has to have eye-to-eye contact and see the entire expression on your face. He needs to see that mouth moving. And your cinched shields have not, I haven't seen a single employee at his school with them. When the secretary called me to see if I was really gonna pull all of them, I said, is a shield an option? And she said, if it's cinched, but they're not gonna want it. The teachers are not gonna want it. If you wear glasses, it'll fog it up. It's not a realistic solution. I should have that choice, whether or not to mask my child. Not you. I don't envy the position that you're in. But you guys wanted the job. This choice isn't yours. It belongs to the parents.
Ashley Poole.
Hello, my name is Ashley, and I have a daughter in the 4th grade. I am here tonight to inform all of you that all of us have had enough. Yep. We've had enough of our children being pawns in a sick game, and I for sure am done watching the spark that was in my daughter's eyes at school disappear before my eyes. Some of you know her personally, and you know that she was a joy, and she still is a joy, but it's going away. Every time I pick her up, it's going away. Our children deserve to breathe freely, and that should be a non-negotiable. I refuse to even beg or ask you because this is America, and we have the right to choose. We should have the freedom to choose. I know that COVID can be a very serious virus for some, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all.
But if there was any actual proof that masks do what people say that they do, a lot of us might not even be here tonight. I'm sure all of you up there are very smart. You have got to be seeing what a completely insane situation this is at this point, right? And you have to. They don't need masks while playing together on the monkey bars and swing sets, but they need them in class because they're sitting for more than 15 minutes. They don't need it at lunch, but they need to wear it at the benches for school pickup when it's 102 degrees outside. And I have to hear teachers shouting at children who just pulled it down to breathe freely when it's 102 out. Sorry, I'm going ahead of myself. To be completely honest, I'd be happy to go back to distance learning. Not because I don't want my kid in the classroom. She loves the classroom, she thrives in a classroom. But because I cannot watch her lose more of herself because of this mask. It's time to do the right thing and take a stand for our kids. We have all seen how other districts are making the choice or letting parents have the choice. Our neighboring one, San Joaquin, they're allowing students to choose. We are all here to now put the spotlight on you to do the right thing for the kids you all get to make decisions for. Allow those who are vulnerable the ability to wear their mask, but allow those that are healthy to make the choice for themselves. We have had enough. We've had enough. At this point, you all should be ready for a pushback more than just pulling our kids in homeschooling because we have had enough. Thank you.
Next up, Elena Poole.
Hello, my name is Elena, and I am a student at one of your schools. Since I have had to go to school wearing a mask, I have noticed a big change in my mood and thoughts at school. When I wear a mask, it makes it really hard for me to breathe. I feel like I am always distracted by it, and it really makes learning harder. I notice other kids in my class distracted by theirs too. In this hot weather, the mask is even worse to wear. It makes me feel like I am a dog because it is like wearing a muzzle on my face and makes me feel like I am not important or special. It makes me feel like I am a germ and I am very healthy. I am very sick of this, and how long can you expect me to do this? Think about the kids who have asthma. It is already hard for them to breathe anyways, and now it is even harder with masks on. Think about all of us. Please give me a choice to decide what I put on my face.
Michelle Hinchcliffe.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hinchcliffe. I have one daughter still in this school district. She is a 7th grader at Bristol Middle School. She needs to be in school. Last year was a complete failure for her. That was her experience. She has a 504 plan. She has to be in class. The mask, I understand we're all trying to keep everybody safe. However, Monday, she was in class. She was on the computer. She started losing her vision. She said she was seeing spots. She was going inside and out. She's hot. She's sitting on the computer. The teacher sends her to the office. She goes into the office. A lady met her and she said, I'm having problems seeing. I don't know what's going on. She comes into the office and was immediately told she didn't follow the protocol. And I don't even know what the protocol is. She said, my teacher sent me to the office. I can't see. I'm having problems with my vision. They immediately take her outside. It was 101 at 6 p.m. that day. I'm talking noon now. They took her outside, told her to leave her mask on, had her in a tent. Had her in a tent with another little boy who was also masked and said, "Don't take your mask off, I'll be right back." She comes back out with the thermometer, holds it to her head, not touching it, and says, "Sweetie, you have a fever. It's 100.9.
You're outside.
My daughter said, I'm hot. She's flushed. She's scared because she's thinking she has COVID. They call me. I come right down. They immediately hand me a paper. She has 2 symptoms of COVID, highlighting she needs a COVID test, she can't come back, she has a headache, and she has a fever. Okay. She's like, "Brandy's outside." I go outside. My daughter is standing in front of Bristol Middle School by herself, crying. Crying. "I have COVID. I'm gonna give it to Daddy. I'm gonna give it to you."
Oh my God.
She's a mess. I take her home. She goes to sleep. She ate before she went to sleep. She had no fever. I took her temperature over the next 3 hours. She has been fine. She's been eating. She's been exercising. She's had 2 negative COVID tests, and she's scared to death.
Shame.
She has a 504 plan. Nobody's contacted me as of yet this year for the plan. She got D's and F's last year. What are we doing now with her?
You an attorney, girlfriend.
You guys feeling good about yourself?
That was the last speaker card I had for this portion of the meeting. I do have one person that would like to speak at item 10.2. If anybody else that has a card that wasn't turned in, now would be the time. Please.
guys want this?
Thank you.
You guys get it yet? You guys get what we're trying to tell you? I can sit up here and I can quote medical studies, data analysis. You've heard it all. You guys have heard it all. I think the best thing that I can tell you at this point is that it's time to actually show some semblance of accountability, some semblance of courage, and actually take responsibility. Nobody's asking for anybody to not wear a mask if that's the case. We're all asking for the choice for our own kids. I'm a father of 2. Okay, nobody knows what my kid needs more than me and my wife. Nobody does. Not a single one of them.
Amen.
Not a single one of them. I'm looking at each one of you in the eye so that you understand where I'm coming from. These parents are done. They're not going to deal with you anymore. We'll take your resignation, or we're going to go ahead and recall all 5 of you. That's the way that we feel right now, because we want representatives that are actually going to represent us. Any government or civics teachers over there? No? Not willing to admit it? No? I've taken an oath in my life on more than one occasion to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I plan on teaching that to each of my kids. It's not your responsibility to tell me what I need to do with my kids. That's my responsibility. I can't even have words with you guys.
All right, there are no more speaker cards at this time. Take a motion to close public session.
Make a motion, we close public comment.
It's been moved and seconded that we close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item 8, consent items. Anybody have any items they'd like to pull or discuss?
That there is a walk-in replacement for the personnel report with updates of recent hires compared to 2 weeks ago. So that was the lavender. Your station is now available in the lobby.
Great, thank you.
If there are none that are going to be pulled, I move that we accept consent items 8.0 through 8.12.
The moved and seconded that we approve consent items 8.0 through 8.11. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to number 9, hearings and appeals, we have none. Item 10, presentations, reports, and other action items. Report out of closed session. We have nothing to report this evening. Item 10.1, the COVID update.
That is me, board. Okay, sorry, we have one down, but the other one's working. So as I've been doing throughout this time, I'm just bringing you data about COVID-19. So just a couple of updates. In the past, actually this came today. The federal government is recommending a booster shot for Pfizer and Moderna. So that's for, it's supposed to be 8 months is what we heard after the second dose for people 18 and older. So it's planning to start September 20th. I believe last week they came out and talked about a booster shot for those that were immunocompromised. So this is in addition to anything for that. We don't have any details for that yet. Vaccination for 5 to 11-year-olds is still quite a ways off. Pfizer announced their data set would be done by about the end of September, and then that would go to FDA approval for routine authorization. So we'll have to wait and see where that's going. On the 11th last week, so a week ago, the governor announced a vaccine or test mandate for all school employees. So this applies to public and private school employees, and so we're required to verify the vaccination status of all workers. And so, if there is a group presented, then we have to have them tested at least one time a week. And so we have until October 15th, so when we come back from October break, to be in compliance with this rule that's coming down. I do want to say that we're still waiting for the California Department of Public Health to issue guidance for music, drama, and sports. That's causing some issues out there. Right now we're following the guidance from before, but those who were promised before the school year started, we're still waiting on them at this point. From Health Services, this is just taken from their website today. So this is the new positives. Just as a reminder, the gray is a lagging indicator, so it shows 7 days case data that's coming in from different providers, but it's not necessarily complete yet. So as we go forward, we'll see what happens there. This is the next graph that they put out showing the new cases comparing vaccinated and unvaccinated populations where the new cases are coming. This is by, it's broken down by age, and so it's showing age groups that starts at 4 and under and goes all the way to over 90. It shows by graph the number in the last 30 days that have tested positive.
Is there deaths though, just showing cases?
This is, and this is really hard to see, and so, but it's, what it does is it's organized by, they provide data over the last 14 days for, by city and the positives that are coming out. And so over the last 14 days in the city of Brentwood, there's been 427 new cases. So, and it's organized, Brentwood is in, how it's organized is by the highest for cases per 100,000 people, so depending on where you are. And then this is showing hospitalization, where the blue is ICU and the green is hospitalized but not in ICU. So you can see this is all of hospitalization going forward. And then just a reminder that we, on our website, we have a COVID-19 resources section that's there. And one of the things that's there is both our COVID testing site information. So this runs every day from 7:30 to 4:30 at the Hills, accessible for free for anybody in the community. And we set it up primarily to help our families be able to access that should they need it. And then this is the dashboard that we put out every Monday. And so it's a snapshot of the cases from the past week. So this is, we put this out Monday for last week. And so We show 3 areas, so symptomatic cases. That could mean that they're demonstrating symptoms, but most of those don't end up COVID positive. And then exposure to positive cases, so we are required to contact trace when we have a positive case that's brought in. And so those exposures are listed there and broken down in both staff and students. And then also listing out the staff and students that tested positive for COVID-19 during that week. And then below that, and a little more difficult to see, is the it's a month breakdown by site. As you can see by site, the number of positives that have taken place so far in August. So that's my update.
Does anybody have any questions about these? All right. That was an information item. Moving to item 10.2, mask guidance. The board was asked to place mask guidance on the board agenda by a member of the community. And I'd like to have an update and conversation on that as well.
Yes, and just in your guidance was or in your packet was the legal guidance that the board had asked for earlier. And really this is the time if there's other public comment that they can bring forward to this. It was listed as both an information and an action item, because it's up to the board to decide what they have to do.
And we do have one request for a public comment at this time, so if somebody would like to make a motion to reopen public comment.
To reopen public comments. I second.
It's been moved and seconded to reopen public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have Carolina Villaseka.
First, I want to thank the district and the board for all the planning for the kids to come back to school. As many parents have said, last year was incredibly rough and distance learning was frankly awful. I was really happy to get my 2 kids back in school. One has an IEP, the other one has a 504. And Miss Davies, they really needed those services in person. You really can't do OT via Zoom. You can't do speech therapy. You can, but it's not as effective as in person. So thank you for the preparation and everything that you've done so far this year. A lot of people here, I'm going to be extremely unpopular right now, so I would like to compare California to Georgia. So Georgia has no mask mandate, indoor, outdoors, anywhere. And so far this year, 9 counties have reverted to distance learning because the cases have shot through the roof. The majority of their hospital systems are out of pediatric ICU beds, which means that there are kids in the pediatric ICUs.
Where's your news source?
There
What
are.
news source is that?
The Atlanta, excuse me, I am speaking.
Please allow everybody the same opportunity to speak during public comment.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is the largest newspaper in Georgia.
We don't live in Georgia.
I know, but I did. I did.
Please, again, please allow everyone to
I
speak.
need the clock reset, please.
Let her talk.
Let her talk.
Give her like.
It's too much, 2 minutes.
Thank you. The reason I'm doing this comparison is because here we have a mask mandate inside the schools, and there they don't. So 9 counties have reverted to distance learning because the cases have shot through the roof so much, and so many students have tested positive for COVID that the school had no choice but to revert back to distance learning. I know nobody in this room wants to do that. In Louisiana, they're out of pediatric ICU beds. There are multiple sources for that. In Mississippi, they have set up beds in garages to take care of patients because they are also out of pediatric ICU beds. In Texas, they have requested nurses to come. There are paying nurses 4 times the going rate to get nurses to come to Texas.
Because they don't want vaccination.
Let her talk. I'm not done talking. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we are doing the experiment of masks versus no masks.
My kid's not an experiment.
It's not an experiment. I'm just saying, there are governors that are requiring masks and governors that are not requiring masks.
It should still be.
In the states where there are no mask mandates, they are shutting down the schools.
Look at
The pediatric ICUs are running out of beds. Okay, those are the facts. Now, if you don't want to hear the facts, that's fine.
No, it's because of RSV.
It's not RSV. It's not RSV. So let me
Ladies and
finish by
gentlemen,
saying
can we
this.
pause for a second? Ladies and gentlemen, everybody has the right to participate. Excuse me, thank
Because
you.
we're pro-choice, not mass
Everybody,
too.
I appreciate that. Everybody has the right to speak and be heard during public comment. Please respect the rights of other people to speak and please listen. Thank you.
The last thing that I want to say is that all of you have said that the board does not suffer legal liability. They do. The state board sends down guidance, and the word guidance sounds like it's an option.
It is.
However, if the board was to put a motion on the floor and vote to lessen the guidance, they can make it stricter, which they have not done, but if they lessen it and somebody gets sick from exposure, which so far that has not happened in our school district because of contact tracing, they would be personally liable if anybody catches COVID.
Then let us sign
So
papers.
far, I'm not done. So far, we've had 43 cases, positive cases, 0 spread. So those are, let's just say 1 for 1. That would mean that each one of the people sitting up there would be open to 43 lawsuits.
I'm sure we'd all sign a release.
That releases don't work.
It should be our.
Yeah, it should be our.
You want to wear a mask and do it. Exactly. Our choice.
Okay,
Medical,
the school board doesn't take care of us, just medical bills, or our bills. We do.
We have one.
we have one more card. Everybody, we have one more speaker card. Please allow everyone the same opportunity to talk. We have Ben Jacobs.
Hi, my name is Ben Jacobs. I have a daughter that goes to Edna Hill, and I'm going to make this really quick. I'm immunocompromised. I had a bone marrow transplant 2.5 years ago. This mask is my choice. If there wasn't a mask mandate, I'd still be wearing this mask because it's my choice. So it's these parents' choice to have a mask on. But my biggest question is that this has been going on since 2020. When are we going to start teaching our kids that this was chemical warfare released upon this world? When are we going to start teaching that? Chemical warfare released upon the world. I think you guys need to start looking at the bigger picture. Okay? So let's try to, listen to these parents and let it be a choice. If you want your kids to wear a mask, that's fine. Wear a mask. If you don't, then don't.
Great.
Amen.
It's a choice. It's a God-given choice too.
Amen.
Thank you.
If there are no speakers, I move that we close
Can I speak then?
comment.
I'll fill out another form if you have to. So when we
What
talk
was your
about
name again?
numbers,
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
What was your name again?
Ashley, sorry,
Ashley.
I'll fill out a little form, thank you. When we talk about numbers escalating, getting higher and beds and all these things, I just want to have everybody remember that we're still using the failed PCR tests that the FDA is recalling by the end of this year. That's it, thank you.
If there are no more comments, I make a motion that we close.
I moved and seconded that we close public comment on item 10.2. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. At this time, would any board members like to make a comment? Or have any questions for staff?
I would like to make a comment. My name is Demo Devitt. First of all, I'd like to thank the people for coming out that have come out. I respect your right for opinion. I respect your rights to express your opinion. Polarity in this issue is amazing. You ask about leadership, and yes, we have leadership no matter what decision we make or recommend we make. We'll have a group that's upset with us, period. So there's no way.
I can't hear you over here.
I'm sorry, there's that.
There we go.
Thank you. As I was saying, I respect the right. I'm glad that you're here and express your opinion. Even in my own family, those polarity of masks and that there is in my community, it's with my friends, and I see and talk to many people and I hear both sides. I'm not an expert in the medical field, that I know. I really try to listen and I hear arguments that convince me that both sides are right. But I have to take the health department's recommendation. I feel that that is my duty to do that. It may not be your opinion, and I respect that. Please respect that that's mine. And so I just wanted to make that comment. I do care about your kids. I've been on this board a long time, and that's the only reason I'm here. And if you want to vote me off, you can.
We sure will.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And so thank you very much for showing.
I just have a question. I have a question related to consequences for non-compliance, and it's, if you could just share, based off of the school, are you seeing any issues with non-compliance in the classroom? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, in terms of, we've had a couple of issues and we've worked through those with the parent. At times, there's been parents that have disagreed with us. There have been parents that have pulled their children out as a result at times. But since day one, we've really had very few issues with mask compliance. The students have come in and worn the mask.
And if a student doesn't have a mask, or something happens, it gets wet or something of that sort, can you talk a little bit about what we do on that case?
Yes, we have masks available in every classroom, and if they run out, we have them in the school that are available.
And if they pass out at PE? And then there was a comment that was made about, their child standing outside. Can we talk about protocol when kids are, can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can't speak to a specific incident
Okay.
without knowing more, but
Okay.
that was concerning what I heard, and I think what we can do is follow up with that. Yep.
So are we not allowed to ask questions at all to you guys?
No, this is for the board meeting, it's an opportunity for the board to discuss, so the public comment is the opportunity for the public to
So
participate.
how do we find out what your protocol is when like a child is passing out at PE?
Again, so this is the time for the board to discuss those things. If you want, you're more than welcome to email us, or Paulson will be happy to send those to you.
Could just take a minute and
I know.
answer it too.
How would you
We're all
show
here.
compassion and
Have a little
answer
bit
our
of
question?
respect.
You literally could have answered it with what you just said.
I appreciate that. That's not how a board
Wasting
meeting
more
works.
time
So this is the
explaining why you
opportunity
can't
for a board to work together. So I appreciate that everybody's had the opportunity to ask questions and share their input as part of board comment, and now this is the time for the board to discuss it.
We just need to recall everyone.
I know, because they don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Just hide behind the brown act. Keep hiding.
Gursky's kids go unmasked all the way through this community at their homes, don't they?
I'm sorry, I'd like to remind you that it's not appropriate to talk about an individual person's children in here. We wouldn't tolerate anybody talking about your children specifically here.
It's not appropriate what you said about somebody else's children on the news, and yet you still haven't publicly apologized. Shame on you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think,
Ashley, do you have those cards?
we've had our discussion for
Can you
item
start giving them out?
10.2. This was an information or action item. I don't believe the board intends to take any action at this time.
Spineless.
Really? No
Spineless. You're a
action?
coward, Gursky. You're a coward.
Then what was the point of putting it on the agenda if we're not gonna sit here and
Because-
vote on anything or take action
Wait, we're
against
not voting
anything?
on it?
That's what you just said. They don't want to do any action at
You
this
will make a
time.
motion, nobody's gonna stand up? Nobody?
You're
You're rolling your eyes
We
the
worked
whole
so
time?
hard to get this on the agenda because we wanted you guys to vote and to hear us and to actually like do something.
Make a decision.
And now you're just gonna say, no, we're just gonna go on?
So the board has made a decision, they made a decision not to have a vote on it and not to change the.
You're a coward!
Then why
You're
did
a coward!
What was the whole, we worked for this last summer to get this on
wanted us to
here.
shut up.
They wanted to look at it like they're doing something when they're full of shit.
We wanted to have
Ridiculous.
we wanted to have a dialogue with you guys.
So that item is ended.
Yeah.
You're a coward.
It's really
You should not have your job. You
Really
should not be around children.
I think we'd like to call for a recess at this time.
Yeah, what? Because we'll be here next month.
We
Next
showed
month,
up.
we'll be here.
Every single board meeting you have.
Every single one.
I was outside.
Whispers, that's right.
I
We put you on this board, we will take you off.
Yep.
make a motion.
You guys are gonna now have legal action. We are all ready for that.
Have a motion for a recess for a second.
No common decency to even answer a simple
Fucking
question.
chicken shit, that's what it is.
There's spine whiskers, see, everybody can see it, be a man. Huh?
You're gonna take a recess and so seriously
Well, you're
answering
walk out.
questions?
All you're gonna walk
Eve
out.
doesn't have a spine, does anybody else? Any
I
other
will
man
not
up here
answer
have one?
questions in this
Why don't
forum. I will make a
you-
statement if you would like me to.
No, we're good.
Please. The meeting is an opportunity for. And we use everybody an opportunity to speak, and we appreciate your comments. We are following the guidance of the county health.
You can't even answer a question, why our kids are wearing masks in PE when it's 100 degrees outside?
And passing
You need to
the
take a
fuck
minute and
out.
have some decency and at least answer a question.
You know what, I believe that I did say that was concerning to me and that we would.
No, you didn't. You said I can write you an email or call you. You did not address it.
You didn't want to
That's
answer.
what
This is getting ridiculous. When the little children passing out from PE,
That happened
you
on Monday.
need
How
to
do you
do
not know
something
about
about it.
Because he's discriminatory against kids, and that's what he is. And we should all be paying really close attention, he's shaking their heads.
Yeah, exactly.
And who's not representing your children properly.
I didn't hear a word of it.
Guys are
Not one,
No, of course not.
not one.
Led women
Who's
too.
gonna walk out first?
No boys. No
You're gonna
boys.
do
You're
it.
really gonna be a chicken or what?
Seriously?
So we'd like to have this meeting, we'd like to continue on, and we
Right, you're
really
a
have,
state coward.
calling people names is not
I
an
think you're a
appropriate.
coward too.
I understand that,
And what you did was discriminatory against that man's child. And you should stand right there, right now, and you should apologize so they get it on video. Because what you said is discriminatory. What you did was defamatory. And what you should do is stand in front of that camera and you should apologize so that they can see it on YouTube and that we can all hear it. You were wrong, sir. Every child has a right to a public education. Am I correct? Yes. Yeah. So when you said, if you don't like it, end quote, if they don't like it, they can homeschool or they can independent study, is what you said. And if you like it, if you like it, I can bring it up.
Ask your words.
I'm sorry, that's not what I said.
You want us to look it up and put it out and remind you what you said? Do we need to do that? Do we need to do that, sir?
We're gonna continue, we'd like to continue on with the meeting.
Don't change the subject,
You're
sir.
changing the subject, so would you like us to pull it out and remind you of the words that you spoke? And if they are correct, you will stand in front of the camera
But it's
and
not on the
apologize.
agenda right now, because it's not in the agenda.
Oh, now you're speaking up. Now you're speaking up.
So if we can get back to the meeting and the agenda that was posted for the public, I'd like to be able to continue with our board meeting. We have public comments. It sounds like there's personal issues to address with the superintendent. You guys have the right to do that. However, I would like to get back to the meeting that we have in the agenda.
And we would like to get back to a normal school.
We would also like the respect that you did to us. Should we do the same and sit here and roll our eyes and
Yeah,
shake our
right.
head, shake our head when you're talking?
Yeah.
Should we do
Roll
that
your
as well?
eyes all the time, that is
I'd like the respect that I gave and not.
You didn't give us the respect. You didn't
I wanted to get back to the meeting.
Oh, let me know. Why not?
Why are you on the board if you don't care about the
children. Why are you here?
I don't know how much further those eyes will go back here.
It's just us getting up, stating our thoughts.
There's not a precedent.
Sir, you literally said in the beginning of this meeting that you're gonna take questions and then questions will be answered at the end.
You did.
This child just reminded all of us of that. So please, here are the children, here are the parents. What the God?
Why didn't you guys let us all pour our hearts out and not make a decision and even discuss it in front of us? You knew your answer to what we wanted to hear before you guys even walked in here. You had no discussion, none of you looked at each other. You already said you guys weren't gonna vote on it. You already said
You guys are gonna be like old people where you won't be able to walk down the street without anybody saying anything to you. This is ridiculous. Put the kids first.
Where's the president, the one that wrote the email over summer that was on our sites for mass choice? It's kind of convenient.
We have also figured out that he is not a leader as well, so we need to be paying attention. You can't show up to this meeting when it's on the agenda. We need to be paying attention.
So we need to continue on with the meeting, and so we either need to go on.
Maybe you should apologize first.
You guys can do a recess. You threatened us so many times. Are you serious?
You're cowards. Rolling your
We're not leaving, so you might as well just do the recess.
We can move on to item 10.3.
Oh my gosh.
And we'll keep showing up here month after month after month, and we'll make sure we're gonna hold you accountable. I see you. We're gonna hold you accountable.
Yeah, it's like 9 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we have
10.3 is the BTA leadership team.
They literally knew their answer.
Thanks for doing your job, guys. Really appreciate it.
Can we go for the car?
Oh my God, are you serious? Like, sir, I wish that you all, this board right now, could see what this child is going through. Like, I'm so fucking pissed right now. My kid, I know you're too late to do a stupid card in. My kid has seen 5 children pass out on the freaking playground since 3 weeks of this school being open. 5! He got a child before he busted his head open on the playground. He's 12. He has been to 3 different schools in this district. I am sick of this shit. How dare you just ignore that question that you just brought up? He said in the beginning, you said that you will take questions and you will answer them later. So when is later? When is later? Because that sounded like today.
It's an email and a phone call, that's later.
No, because they don't even email us back.
Exactly.
So when is later?
Again, we're moving on with the.
Sorry,
excuse for a man.
When's later?
You are a coward.
When's later?
We're on agenda item 10.3.
Recall.
Oh, now you're gonna say something.
Recall.
Yep.
We're not allowed to say things in public.
No, but you rolled your eyes when I was talking, and I watched you do it.
She rolled her eyes when everybody was talking.
Oh, and now you're ready. Now you're ready. Yeah.
You guys, we're gonna take a short.
You think we're not serious?
Take your recess.
Maybe I should take the rest of the night off.
Maybe we should sit down and do your job for you, man.
You guys keep thinking we're.
Because I guarantee we can do it a lot better than you can.
Cowards, all of you.
You should not be on the school board, and I promise you, you won't be later.
You're worried about me.
My favorite part of the business is
If I were to start now,
Bring the meeting back to order, please. Continue with item 10.3.
Good evening, board. My name is Tina Silvers, and I
was the president of the Broadway Teachers Association. We just wanted to spend time tonight to introduce our new executive board that we have. Last year was really challenging, obviously, for all of us and families included, and we just want you to know that, we hear you and we are fully ready to take on the challenges of this next year too. So I am really thrilled to introduce our new president. This is Lisa Bustillos. She teaches over at Bristow. She'll introduce some more about herself, but in any case, thank you, and it was a pleasure serving.
Thank you, Dina.
Good evening, board, teachers, district leadership, parents, and students. My name is Lisa Bustillos, and I wanted to say it's amazing to be back with people and not behind a computer anymore. I'm happy to be able to represent our Broadway Teachers Association tonight. Many times over the summer, people ask me why I put my hat in the ring. The answer is so simple. I just want to be a part of making teacher and students' lives better. It's what's important to me at my core values. I also know that when teachers feel cared for and appreciated, they pass it right on to their students. We need more of that in this world right now, don't we? Our BTA is added to our executive board, and we just want to introduce you to our returning people, introduce our newest board position holders. Connie Torres is our vice president and also serves as our bargaining co-chair. Melissa Rosnick is our secretary. Sue Lackey is our treasurer. Our middle school members at large are Joe and Taylor Thornhill, and our elementary members at large are Maurice Venezia and Leslie Olm. When we meet and we talk about our goals for the upcoming year, we talk a lot about how we're going to lift each other up to the top of the mountain. Maybe it's a landslide now. All these challenges that are facing us. We know that collaborating with our peers, admin, district leadership is what will help our teachers and students most. Now more than ever, our conversations focus around the care of our students. It's something that we need to rely on each other to see from multiple perspectives. As a math teacher, I can tell you an hour is only about 4% of your day. 4.16 if we're getting a little bit technical. I want to remind everybody to take a moment each day to care for their needs and just end with a quote from Irma Bombeck. Maybe some of you who are, Gen X or a little older remember her. Seize the moment. Remember all those women like Titanic who passed up the dessert tray. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10.4, approval of provisional interim permit.
So you have before you the Region Board, the provisional intern permits for 2 teachers. These are options that we are able to provide for staff identified as qualified, however, they're still in the process of obtaining their official credential. And so this is a way of them being authorized to teach our students during that time that they're working through their credentialing process.
Anybody have any questions on this item?
Is this an emergency teacher certification? It is one of several options that we have for emergency certification, yes.
Yeah, this is done every year.
Yes, it's not uncommon for us to bring these forward.
I make a motion that we approve item 10.6, the approval of provisional interim permit.
Just to amend that to item 10.4.
I'm sorry, Jim.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 10.4. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. 10.5, approval of board policy, administrative regulation 6158.
So this is a little bit out of the ordinary for us with the board policy. Just a reminder that independent study by law was changed right before we opened school, and it requires us passing a policy within 30 days of opening school. So while normally this would be in a 2-step process like we typically see, we're asking you to pass it in a 1-step process.
Okay, did anybody have any questions on that item? Have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 10.5, approval of board policy administrative regulation 6158. Second.
Item 10.5 has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 4-0. 10.6, process for naming alternative, alternative education program.
So board, this is coming to you because ultimately the board has decision-making power when it comes to naming new schools. With the growth of the independent study and homeschool program, we have approximately 175 students in. And the staff and students and families in that program would like the school to have a name. And so what we'd like to propose to you, I put in the packet the board policy around naming facilities. Is a timeline where what we would do as staff is we would put out a request for input, especially from families and staff in that school for ideas for a school name, and then bring it back to you in a policy or a process where you have the opportunity to take that input and make a decision about what that school's name will be going forward. So it's here for your information, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but assuming positive direction tonight, we would start that process and keep you up to date with it.
So what would the next steps be in that process?
Yeah, so the next steps would be to put together a timeline and to send out a survey out wide to get some input for the names, then to bring that back to you for some information item, and then to set a time in the future for you to vote and select the name.
This is just an informational item, we don't need to make a motion, but just give you guidance moving forward. I appreciate that. Okay, item 10.7, the first reading of board policy, board bylaw, administrative regulation, exhibits. Whole bunch of them.
Standard first read. So
Okay.
your questions have the answer.
All right, board member comment, future agenda items?
Tax mandates.
Nobody has anything?
I need it, so.
All right, so our next regular board meeting would be held on September 22nd, 2021, 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.
Meeting is garbage.